You are listening to How to Get Over Your Ex, episode number 306. How do I build a life after my breakup that actually feels better? Welcome to How to Get Over Your Ex, a podcast on getting over your ex without it just taking time. I'm your host, Breakup Coach Dorothy. Let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. Hello, beautiful brave hearts. How are you doing? I'm so excited to be here with you today to talk about something called self-authorship. If you take these 3 self-authoring steps today, by the end of this week, you will be feeling like the main character of your own life instead of a supporting role in your ex's story, okay? So when it comes to breakups, heartbreak, betrayal, divorce, the goal really isn't about moving on or getting over someone. Hear me out for a second. Yes, we want to do those things and they will happen. But to me, the real goal is becoming someone who knows how to and is confident in their ability to author their own experience no matter what life throws their way. Okay? Now, the individuals who create that experience are the ones who really aren't, waiting for time to heal or letting breakup rules like going no contact get in their way. They don't wait for their ex to come back. They genuinely do craft the story so that they get what they want no matter who's in the life, like in their life or not in their life. They ultimately become the author of their own story through what I call self-authorship. So to me, self-authorship is deciding who you are without your ex, redirecting your emotional energy, embracing uncertainty, rewriting your beliefs, and actively creating experiences that feel bigger and better. And here's why this matters so much. Your bigger and better life is not a destination. It is not someplace that you arrive and then stay at all the time because we are always evolving. We are always changing. You will get to your bigger and better life, and then you'll have a new idea as to what a bigger and better life will look like. So it's always a direction. Your bigger and better life, what we like to call your BBL, is always a direction. Now, this means that self-authorship isn't something you do once to get over someone or to move on. It's actually a skill set that you use to continuously create a life that feels like you won the lottery. And without self-authorship, you will spend the rest of your life letting other people write your story, letting mass consciousness write your human experience. You'll get over your ex, but then you'll get stuck in the next phase. You'll hate dating because you're letting society's narrative about how terrible it is dictate your experience. It's crazy. People come to me for interviews all the time, and we'll be doing an interview and they just have this preconceived idea that dating is so terrible. And I'm like, this is just so fascinating because that is not the experience that my clients are having. They don't live in that paradigm, right? So without self-authorship, you let mass consciousness write rules in your life, and then you live by them. I notice this in terms of settling for relationships that feel safe rather than extraordinary because you've learned, you've let other people author that. So I want to give you an example. I thought it was a beautiful example that happened literally this week. I have a client who is in the Bigger and Better Life Mastermind, and she joined it actually in 2024. And when we worked together in 2024, she was really stuck at this point of around dating. She was definitely over her ex, but she was struggling with dating. Just like I had mentioned, she had subscribed to all of these outside authors, right? She had hired the dating coaches, taken the courses, the programs, done all these dates, but was really hating the experience. Again, mass consciousness. It was crazy. She had picked up other people's beliefs along the way. And I know a lot of you can relate to this. Now, through self-authorship, through the work that we did in BBL, she really decided who she wanted to be while dating. And she authored her experience instead of letting the terrible dating market be the story or the author of her experience. She defined her own rules around dating and what she was willing to do versus not do, how she'd like to meet her partner and not, and then committed to all of that. And she wrote it in her book, right? And now she found her person. She's definitely dating her person. And it wasn't by accident, but it was by design, through her design. And now in 2025, she's getting married and once again using self-authorship to decide what marriage means to her and what moving in looks like together with him and on her terms. So she's continuously authoring her experience, which I think is something that we forget is a continuous tool that you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. You either do or you outsource it to other people. So if you do not learn the skill set of self-authorship, your experience will look very different. You'll get over your ex, but maybe remain stuck in every area that requires you to decide who you are and what you want. Now, your bigger and better life, again, is not a destination, it's a direction. And self-authorship is the compass, I think, that really ensures you're always headed toward the life you're designing, actively writing, not the life that's happening to you or as a reaction to your breakup. Now, I see multiple mistakes happen. We're going to talk about 3. The first one is plugging into mass level conscious narratives. Everyone around you will be like, well, these are just the facts. We list things off as facts as if they're just 100% true, when in reality, they're not facts. They are made up rules that weren't written for extraordinary lives. And I see this everywhere. You're following society's narrative that dating is tough. So you approach it with dread and you make it tough. You just state it as tough while all your girlfriends nod their heads over dinner, agreeing. No one questioning each other, right? You're buying into ideas like it takes time to heal. So you sit around waiting instead of actively creating your comeback. Or you're accepting that you have to go no contact, even if it doesn't feel like the right thing for your situation. Now, the problem is that you've actually plugged into this mass level consciousness. I literally see it as like a cloud that has a wire, and sometimes I plug into it and sometimes I don't. And instead of authoring your own experience, so you're letting collective fear tactics, scarcity mindsets, and other people's limitations feed your story, which will ultimately feed your reality, right? So the American dream says I should want this house and to get married and have babies on this timeline. There's chaos in the world, so we should be anxious. Everyone says dating apps are terrible, so I should expect the worst. There's like a lot of like angst out there. But you do not have to play your life by these rules. It's okay to unplug. It is safe to unplug. And when you plug into that mass level consciousness, you really get sucked into the fear, the scarcity, the indecision, because you're fighting with your soul being and what everyone else thinks you should think and believe and want and feel. Whereas self-authorship means writing new rules that actually serve your story of greatness. And you choose to elevate. We want to go above. We want to elevate above the fear, above the scarcity, above the chaos of the world to imagine everything you actually deeply desire coming to you. Okay. Mistake number 2, toxic positivity instead of true self-authorship. If you only remember one line today, please make it this. We don't take away pain to write a good story. We direct the comeback, okay? Every incredible story has pain, has a cliffhanger, has a struggle. We are not trying to eliminate the human experience when we practice self-authorship. We leave the pain there and we become the architect of what comes next, okay? When you try to just put a positive spin on something horrible, it will feel like a Band-Aid over a gaping wound, and you will be lying to yourself, gaslighting yourself. That is not what we're talking about. You don't author your story by pretending you're not heartbroken. You author it by saying, I'm heartbroken and I'm going to create something beautiful from this. You don't author it by avoiding the hard chapters. You author by deciding what those chapters mean and where they're going to lead. Because true self-authorship means you get to feel everything fully while still directing your comeback. And the pain becomes part of the origin story and just not the beginning of it, right? And mistake number 3 is settling for average when we're really just not average human beings. If you're listening to this podcast, when you're in my world, you are not average. You are not mediocre. You are not medium. We are outliers. We are exceptions. We don't do things in a quote unquote normal way. You are meant for an extraordinary life. And here's a sentence I give clients to use word for word. I am not mediocre. I am the main character of my story, and main characters don't live average lives. When you believe there are no exceptions, you will live a life without the extraordinary. When you believe you're average, you'll create an average life. But notice this. You are the main character of your story. So as the author, you get to write about this main character. How you describe the main character will determine how the main character feels and experiences the story. So why not give the main character what she wants? Let her follow her deepest desires, even if it makes her nervous. Let her take the risks that make for a better movie. Average people don't write books about their average lives. You are an exception. You are an outlier. The ones who create extraordinary stories come from extraordinary circumstances. So here's what we are going to do. We are not going to fall into the common traps that those 3 mistakes are. Okay? We are going to follow self-authorship. And there's 3 steps to this, okay? Step 1, I want you to decide who you are without your ex. This is foundational. We talked about this a lot in last week's podcast episode. So if you're someone who's like, I really don't know who I am without my ex, listen, I understand it. I feel you. I see you. I get it. And I highly recommend you go back 1 episode to 305 and listen to last week's episode. I teach you how to figure out who you are and what you want. And then I give you 5 activation codes that help you lean into and turn up the volume on who you are without them. Now, here's how to get started today when we think about deciding on who you are without them. What you focus on, you create more of. So we need to focus on what you do know about you, and then you'll find more about what you know about you. So write down 20 things that are true about you that have nothing to do with your relationship status. It can't be, I'm a good girlfriend, because then that's defined by somebody else. I want you to list things that like, I'm someone who loves trying new restaurants, or I'm someone who cries at movies, or I'm someone who dreams big. Truths about yourself that feel good in your bones. Step 2, I want you to author your emotional experience. Never let your emotions today write tomorrow's story. So instead, I want you to practice this daily. I feel, insert emotion, and I'm choosing, insert action, because I'm authoring a bigger and better life. So examples of this might be, I feel devastated that he moved on so quickly, and I'm choosing to go on that coffee date with my friend because I'm authoring a life full of connection. Another one might be, I feel terrible about being alone, and I'm choosing to book that solo trip because I'm authoring a life full of adventure. So you acknowledge the feeling, and then you author the action from the version of yourself you're becoming, not the version of yourself that's hurting right now. And step 3, I want you to create your own experiences. Stop waiting for life to happen to you. Start authoring experiences that feel bigger and better. Your ex took you to that restaurant? Great. Now you're going to author an even better dining experience with people who actually want to be there. You used to travel together? Amazing, beautiful. Now you're going to author solo adventures or trips with friends who celebrate your spontaneity. You had dreams together. Listen, all the dreams that you had with your ex, perfect. But now you're going to author those dreams and create those dreams on your own terms, probably better than they ever would have been with someone who gave up on them, right? So the 3 steps are decide who you are, author your emotional experience, and create your own bigger experiences. And I want to talk to you about someone who is a beautiful example of this. So she came to me devastated because her ex of 5 years left her for a coworker. Like, ouch, right? So when she came to me, she was really stuck in reaction mode, working out obsessively to get the revenge body, posting constantly on social media, hoping he'd see it, staying busy to avoid feeling the pain. But we worked on the self-authorship, right? We worked on becoming the author of her story. And first she decided who she was without him. And she was a creative, adventurous woman who loved art and travel. And then secondly, she started authoring her emotional experience, right? I feel heartbroken and I'm choosing to take that pottery class because I'm becoming someone who creates beauty. Third, she started creating experiences, solo art museum trips, weekend pottery workshops, a girls' trip to Italy, which was so cool. I remember telling her, like, if I were you, girlfriend, I would book one experience that feels bigger and better than anything I ever did in that relationship, period, and make it happen. And 6 months later, she barely thinks about her ex. It had nothing to do with time or going no contact. It was because she authored a life that was so incredible that there was no room for obsessing over someone who chose to leave it. And the crazy shit, you guys, this blew my mind. She met her now fiance at a pottery class. And the ironic part to me was that she met him not because she was like looking for a partner, but because she was literally living her newly authored life. So here's what I want you to do today. I want you to practice these 3 steps in self-authorship, right? Decide who you are and what you want without your ex. Author your emotional experience, interrupt the emotion, and create bigger and better life experiences for you. And this is the new way to heartbreak, my friends. This is the Braveheart movement. You are brave enough to do things differently, right? Do it differently. Show up differently in breakups and heartbreak. Architect your comeback. Now, if you want my eyes on your self-authorship journey, the Bigger and Better Life Mastermind starts October 1st. We spend 6 months mastering this skill together. Your bigger and better life is waiting, Braveheart, and you're the only one who can write it. So let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. I love you so much, and I hope you have a beautiful week.
If you're loving the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast and you want to learn how to get over your ex in 3 months or less to build a life better than the one you thought you had with your ex, I would like to personally invite you to my next group course where we take everything you've learned here on the podcast and apply it to your life. Come check it out at www.lifecoachdorothy.com.